Welcome, everyone. I'm now calling this meeting to order. Please stand with us. We'll be led in prayer this evening by Alderman Gallagher. Then we do have some special guests with us tonight. They'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We have the Webelos Pack 73. We can give them a little quick hand. So if our Pack 73 will lead us in the pledge shortly after the prayer, we appreciate that.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for the night that you've given us. Lord, we thank you for this special time of year when we talk about your birth and spread the good news, Lord. Lord, I pray that you would be with us tonight and help us with each decision that we make, Lord. Lord, we also want to pray for our neighbors to the south who've experienced a tornado. Lord, we pray that you would be with them, Lord, and that you would bless them and bless the people who are helping them. These things we ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Scout salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on the agenda this evening is the approval of minutes for the December 3rd, 2019 meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of December 3rd, 2019 with any additions, deletions, or corrections. Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Kelly. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yes. That motion carries. Next on the agenda is approval for mayor and board to travel to the Mississippi Municipal League Conference in January.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we make a motion to approve the travel for the aldermen and the mayor to attend the winter MML conference in Jackson City. Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Hoots. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is a resolution for a sole source vendor for the Southaven Police Department. Mr. Nick Manley.
It is just a resolution for sole source, Southaven Police Department, as recommended and requested by Chief of Police. So tonight, authorization for the mayor to sign the resolution for the sole source, Southaven Police Department, as presented.
Move. Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Kelly, second by Alderman Hoots. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is the assignment of the T-Mobile lease.
Previously, we entered into a contract with PowerTel at the Brookhaven Water Tower for cell power lease or cell site lease. As part of the contract, they could assign the contract, and tonight just authorization to authorize the mayor to sign the assignment with T-Mobile as the new entity for the contract that makes the payments. The only thing that will change will be who we get the check from. Everything else will stay the same.
Make that motion. Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Wheeler, second by Alderman Gallagher. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. And next on the agenda is a resolution for a bike lane parking ordinance.
Yeah, this was discussed in the ordinance committee meeting. Ordinance prohibiting parking in bike lanes within the city in the hours of 5:30 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. So tonight, present for the board's discussion and or approval.
I'll make that motion. Second.
We have a motion from Alderman Gallagher, second from Alderman Kelly. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I had an issue with limiting residents along Greenbrook Parkway and Clarington to not be able to park on their street. Just a little history. A couple years ago, probably 4.5 years ago, when we started to decide about the bike lanes, I was very excited about the idea of putting them in Greenbrook. But when the idea came that these residents wouldn't be able to park on the lanes, that became a major issue because most of these homes, a lot of these homes were built over 30 years ago, only have a single car driveway. And they were there long before the idea of a bike lane ever came. So I'd gone to the mayor, we had a meeting with then Police Chief Steve Purtle, City Engineer Dan Cordell, and Joe Cook was there, just to discuss the issue and the fact that a lot of residents had started to become very concerned that what are we going to be able to do? How are we not going to be able to park in front of the street if we need to? What if we have people come over? What if we have a Christmas celebration and we've got 16 guests? I mean, what's going to happen? So we had the discussion, and because those streets are extra wide, Clarington and especially Greenbrook Parkway, we had all decided and agreed on to make the bike lanes extra wide that could accommodate both a parked car if needed and a bicycle. Since then, I've heard no complaints. Honestly, the only complaint that I hear is people still, a couple people every now and then, thinking it's a waste of money that we painted bike lanes on the street, that they're not used. But those are the only concerns that I hear. I haven't heard any other concerns. I just know that if we pass an ordinance restricting that, number one, I don't think it's fair to the residents. And number two, if I were them, I can understand being upset. So I'm not for restricting residents being able to park in a bike lane that wasn't previously there before they moved in.
Well, if I may, before I yield to anybody else on the board that wants to talk about it, I mean, this obviously there's some disagreement with your peers. There's some people on this board that that requested that we move forward with this ordinance. And just to kind of recap what happened back, I think it was 2016 when you and I talked. And before I say anything, I want you to understand that I understand your concern. I do. I do think it's important that we note that what was discussed then, you and I talked about how the city has a plan. We had joined Greenprint 2040 before that, which is a Memphis Metro plan to show our commitment as a city to become more pedestrian friendly, which our paths would eventually connect, to the other suburbs and the city of Memphis. So we were all in agreement that we were going to become more pedestrian friendly. And then actually you, as you stated, you were excited about starting it on Clarington. We started, that was the first one. We started on Clarington. And so then I know some people brought their concerns to you, which I completely understand. But it was my understanding at that point that we had agreed that we would slow this down, because like you said, some of the residents bought homes there many years before, and this is a change for them. So we're going to have a period where we allow there to be kind of a warming up period, or to get used to it, or whatever changes need to be made as far as maybe pouring more driveway or whatever it may be, that we're going to allow some time. But I don't think that we ever left that discussion stating that we were not going to ever make it a bike lane, because the other thing I will share with you, just being fair, so the board is updated, you may not have had any complaints, but I can assure you I've had many complaints since 2016 on the other end for people that want to use the bike lane. Again, it's not just for bikers, it's for runners, walkers, that kind of thing. So I've had many complaints, and their statement is a reasonable statement. They say, why do you have a pedestrian lane if you're going to park cars in it? And so I do see both sides of it. I just think it was important, for the board to know that there is people on both sides of this issue. One other thing, if I may, you had mentioned that you referenced in the past in our discussion that the city of Memphis, I know I can think of a few specific areas on Madison, and then near the big pedestrian bridge that goes across the Mississippi River on the old bridge, like in that area. There's some lanes there that are kind of different from what we've seen here. Like they put the bike lane or the pedestrian lane on the inside of the parking. So like you can park on the street, but then before vehicle traffic, there's a lane that's there for pedestrians and bikes. We actually discussed that. I know Whitney and I discussed that. And our fear with that is you're sandwiching bikers and pedestrians in between a parked car and a moving vehicle. And I can just tell you personally, I don't like that idea. I think it's dangerous. I know it works in some parts of Memphis, but it just scares me a little bit. But basically that leaves us with a discussion. Oh, the other point I was going to make that's important, I hear the same thing you do. Like sometimes people say, well, nobody uses this. You know, y'all painted these bike lanes, nobody uses it. Well, it's kind of like it's not finished. So like if I'm going to get on at Greenbrook Parkway and I'm going to ride my bike to Sweeney, that's not a very long bike ride. I'm probably not going to use it. But if you eventually connect, in which we know the city has plans of connecting the trail through Central Park, the multi-use trail from Tullahoma to Snowden, so you got, you know, when these are connected, you'll have a path that actually goes from Malone all the way to Baptist Hospital. So then you're going to have more people using it. But right now, you're correct. Nobody's using it because it's not connected. It's just a piece right now. So I just think it's important that everybody knows that. With all that being said, I'm for once going to be lame on this issue, okay? I mean, for the first time, I'm going to be lame, and I'm going to say, I understand both sides of the issue. I want to hear from the board what y'all want to do about it. Because, you know, like I said, we made a commitment to participate in Greenprint 2040. So what does that mean? Does that mean we're backing out of that commitment, or does it mean that we want to use the lanes, you know, for dual, like you mentioned, they're extra wide, Alderman Payne? Do you think that we can use that section on Clarington and Greenbrook Parkway to park, but then you think there's enough room for the bikes and the pedestrians to go around the parked car safely?
I think so. I know in one of the past, I've been told in one of the past ordinance committee meetings, we had talked about sending out flyers to the residents on there, just asking them to try not to park in the bike lanes. I mean, we understood that if you have to, but, you know, please try, if you can, refrain from doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that ever happened, or if anything like that ever happened. But
well, that actually
I'd
was
like to
the
start
signs.
there.
Yeah, that got replaced by recently the signs. Like that was being discussed in a parallel way to just restricting it for certain hours, like not nonstop. Because again, back to your concern about allowing parking at some times, we know that sometimes people need, you know, like when they're at home from work in the evening, that they may need that. And I understand with three teenage drivers backing cars out to let somebody out, I understand that totally. But so that kind of got replaced by just having certain hours instead of making it completely restricted. But the point about the flyers, I would think that, you know, when you mark the street for going on 4 years now, it's a bike lane. I mean, I just will go ahead and share my opinion. I think that's pretty good notice that it's going to be a bike lane. Yeah.
Well, I understand that, but from the meeting that we had, I didn't come from the meeting thinking that this wasn't a resolved issue. I mean, and actually I told citizens, I reassured them, who, when they saw the bike lanes being painted, that no, we've met with the mayor, you will be able to park, you know, if you need to. So, you know, once again, you know, I've, you know, gone out there thinking, at least thinking that we had this resolved because we made the lanes wide enough. And I've told them one thing, and now we're going to do something else. That's another concern I have.
Yeah. Well, and again, I took that as it was a temporary thing, that it wasn't a permanent solution. But again, like I said, I'm going to take the easy way out tonight. It's the last meeting of the year. I am going to shut up and let the board talk. Y'all tell us what you want to do. You want a bike lane or do you not? Alderman Gallagher, you made the motion in the Ordinance Committee to bring it back up. So would you please address the board?
Yes, sir. First, I want to say I love George Payne. And he and I see eye to eye on 99.9% of things. This is one area that George and I have discussed that we have a difference of opinion. And while I definitely respect George's opinion, I think if we're going to have bike lanes, we need to have bike lanes. When I'm thinking about it, in my mind, I say, what was a road built for? The road was built for traffic. It was built for people to walk, be pedestrians. It was built for bicycles. It was built for cars to travel on. It was not built to be parked on. Although parking is definitely something that does occur, I'm not saying that, but the road is built for traffic. And so in my estimation, I think we should use it for that. Right now, I know in talking to Whitney, she's mentioned that there's been many bikers that have complained to her about the safety of everything, and basically saying, hey, y'all said we were going to have bike lanes. We've got these cars parked out here. I've got to go out into traffic and risk my safety to get up and down the road. And to me, it's a big safety issue. And the first biker that gets bumped on the road is going to try to sue the city because, hey, y'all made these bike lanes, but y'all are letting people park in it. So to me, it boils down to that. But that's pretty much where I'm coming from. Like I say, I do want to definitely respect George's opinion. Is just that we differ on it.
Joe, Alderman Gallagher, I appreciate that. I kind of feel that you would feel just a little bit differently, though, if you lived there and had a bike lane in front of your house with one of your 2 children, now coming up 3, all had vehicles and had to drive. Plus, when they have friends over, when you have friends over, when you have any kind of function, can the function only happen after 8:30 at night now? I mean, who's going to be in charge of policing this? Is this going to be code enforcement doing it? If they don't leave their house until 8 o'clock in the morning instead of 5:30, or are they going to get a ticket on their car?
Well,
I mean,
I can definitely understand where it could be an inconvenience, which is when we did this in 2016. That was one of the reasons that we didn't do things immediately, so that people could begin to prepare their yards and things for the cars to be parked in them. I did live in Greenbrook actually at one time. I didn't live on a street, where there was a bike lane, but lived right outside of one. And I'll be honest, generally people didn't, back in the 80s, and I know our city has grown, but people generally didn't park on the street at that time. But to answer your question about when they have parties or something, our police are going to have to use some discretion and things. And of course, I would be against people getting ticketed when they're having multiple guests over to the house and everything. So
you're making it a law.
An ordinance, yes, an ordinance.
Okay. But you're making an ordinance.
Right. But our police have to use.
You only sometimes do the ordinance, or do you always do the ordinance?
We always do the ordinance, but we tell our police to use their discretion when it comes down to parties and things like that.
Whitney, obviously the city of Southaven, Mississippi is not we're not the pioneer of bike lanes. Sorry, bike lanes have been used throughout this country everywhere. So what is the answer to Alderman Payne's question? He's saying that what does someone do when they live on a street and they have a wedding shower or a baby shower and they have people over at 2 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon?
I think that's what happens is that, talking to Bartlett and things like that, the police do use their discretion at that point in time. They may go and knock on the door and ask, what the problem is, if they get a complaint directly from the neighbors. If it's a baby shower, bridal shower, they'll want another time of dispersion of all the vehicles, and they leave it at that. If it's something that's, reported on a day-to-day basis, so there's teenagers at the house all the time, there's 11 cars in front of the house, and it is a problematic one, it's not a one-time event type thing, then obviously it goes into another situation.
So basically there has to be some discretion used.
Everybody I've talked to is basically said that the police use their discretion with it.
Yeah.
Just like they would, with a speeder going under 10 or over 10.
And one more thing, Alderman Payne, I know that somewhere along the way there was discussion about what's being proposed tonight has a sign that would go up for a certain number of hours from 5:30 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. So you somewhere along the way you made a point that some people have not left for work at 5:30 a.m. yet. So if they went, if they had to allow their teenagers to park in the driveway and they park their vehicles, they'd have to conflict in a single driveway if they park there, that they would be in violation until they left for work. So do you see any kind of potential solution in adjusting the hour? I mean, still doing it, but maybe adjusting the hours?
I would hope if this board passes any kind of restriction, that they please change those hours.
What's your recommendation?
I mean, 8:30 to 8:30? 8 to 8, something easy that looks good on the sign? I don't know.
Well, the reason that the hours weren't just pulled out of somebody's hip pocket, the reason those were chosen because in the summertime, generally at 8:30 is when it gets dark. Then 5:30 a.m. is, for the most part, is about when, you would have runners or pedestrians out at that time for people that like to go work out or whatever before they go to work in the morning.
Well, like I said, and I've told residents who complain to me about the fact that there are, why do we waste that money or time? And I tell them, I've seen people running.
Sure.
I've seen people running in the lanes. And most of the people live in Greenbrook.
Yeah.
Which once again goes to the point that I've never had anyone, at least that lives in Greenbrook, contact me complaining about people parking in the bike lanes. The other point I wanted to make is, as someone who I have multiple children, I'm probably not the average. I have 5 drivers at my house, licensed drivers, and so we have a lot of vehicles. We can't all fit in a double driveway. People generally don't park on the street unless they have to. They don't just do it because they like their car, how it looks on the street. That's my concern.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Whitney, help me understand the connection between where the Baptist ends and where we pick up on Clarendon and the necessary need for one on Greenwood.
How it creates the cohesiveness.
Yeah.
Baptist DeSoto has their own hospital plan that goes around their loop and connects on Clarendon Drive, stops shy right there, Fairways. When we did our city adoption of the pedestrian plans, our goal was to connect right there to Airways in Clarendon. Obviously, we didn't have the capabilities to do like an all-street path. It's built out, it's tight through Greenbrook. We had wide enough streets, so what we did was put the striping on Clarendon, which will take it all the way to Sweeney. We then went into Central Park and did the share the road concept through Central Park. That will take it all the way over to Tullahoma, and then we have the Central to Snowden pedestrian path that will start there, right where that one ends. With the share the road in the park, it will connect to the pedestrian path there. That path will then go south on Tullahoma, all the way to May Boulevard, where it comes through Silo Square. It will go through Silo Square and go into Snowden Park. It will end right there at Pine Tar Alley, what is it, Snowden Lane. And actually start up with our Snowden pedestrian path, which is under construction now. So essentially, each one of these pieces is a leg to get all the way from the hospital to Malone, as the mayor was talking about. The problem with this area right here is without this, you've got a gap in the connectivity. And like I said, we've looked at other things. Obviously, concrete sidewalks are really expensive. The lots are a lot smaller, so even trying to put a sidewalk there to appease the connectivity is going to be near to impossible, not to mention well into the 6 digits, if not into the millions to do. So it just seems like a more logical situation to just restrike the road.
Have we received grants because of the walking and bike lanes?
Sure, there's it's called Healthy America grants. You can get those. Actually, the Central to Snowden was originally a grant that we got, and you have to prove that you've got the connectability. We had to provide them when we adopted a connectability plan, which incorporated this area. But you have to have those to show proof to get more grants. So yes.
So you plan on applying for more grants?
Oh, absolutely.
Now I have a question. Nathan, we keep saying that the ordinance is a restriction. Bike lanes in and of themselves are restrictions, not for no parking.
No, I mean, you can make a bike lane, no parking or parking. And the only thing I would say is we need to be real careful about saying police have discretion too. I mean, the ordinance is the ordinance. I mean, I don't want it to be where the police are, obviously they're going to need, for practical purposes, we're going to need to enforce the ordinance at all times whenever it's done. So we can't necessarily rely on, I'm not saying they can't use discretion, but it would be not practical to have police knock on someone's door at 7 o'clock at night and say this is a party. I mean, they're going to have to enforce the ordinance from the standpoint of we need to take the discretion out of the ordinance as far as that and just make it where that's the ordinance is the ordinance. caution, maybe be careful and think discretion from.
Could they write a warning ticket for?
You can do that, we need to amend the ordinance to do that, but you have to give that warning, and then the other question comes in, if you have a warning ticket, and did you give this car a warning last time with a different car warning? I mean, I don't know how you actually enforce that. You have to give a visitor coming and they're parked on the street, you got a warning ticket. Then there'd be a lot of, I will obviously defer to Chief Moore on this, but how the paperwork goes as far as keeping up with what's car got a warning. But for our purposes tonight, we do an ordinance for the public. We don't have discretion. We have to enforce the ordinance as it is.
And if we go ahead and pass this ordinance with restriction of whatever time we decide on, we will have to pretty much stick to that for every other future neighborhood. Or can we pick and choose which neighborhood we don't want to have time allotment for?
No, you would need, you could set that in your ordinance, but you would want to have everything clearly defined in the ordinance. So if you want from this lane to this lane to be, you would need to treat every light area equally. So if you want this street to be from 8 to 8, but this street to be from 7 to 7, you need to specify it all down the front end in your ordinance and have the sign reflect that so that there would be due notice and due to everybody who would get a citation.
So we could basically say that this allowed time period is only for Burlington and Greenwood Parkway.
Yeah, you would want to have that, you'd want to have it really, you'd want to be very specific in your ordinance regarding the streets and the areas and have the sign match up to the ordinance and almost literally have it set out in your ordinance. AB's, here's the restrictions on these areas and have that set out so that there would be something in writing and in notice. And then that way it can be treated equally, and that way if somebody did eventually get a ticket rolled for it, they would have had notice not only through the ordinance, but also through the sign. And that also takes discretion out as well, because that would be a tough law to uphold if we're going to use discretion at our will.
If I may clarify that, and I don't mean to disrespect our city attorney, but I would say, and I'm not a policeman either, but I will say this, there's always a time, this is not unique to our city. We have no parking areas, and there has to be some discretion there based on the width of the road, other factors around there. So there's other areas in our city where we restrict parking on the street. This is not a new concept. When that happens, if a police officer comes upon someone that's temporarily parked there, they're not going to rush up and write it. I mean, obviously they want to know why are you parked there first. They're going to reasonably ask some questions. So this is not quite as black and white as I think as we're trying to make it. Obviously, the police are going to ask questions why someone's parked in a bike lane. So again, I just want to make the point. This is not the only place in the city where we have no parking on the street. Yeah.
Well, I agree. I'm just saying, when they're passing an ordinance and we're talking about discretion before we pass it, you would you'll run into legal issues in the future with that being in our minutes.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is that obviously this would be a very temporary thing. It would be a situation where like another situation where the police would ask a question. They don't run up, and cite somebody. They're going to run up and say, and obviously check the situation out, find out what's going on, before they start.
Oh yeah, I'm taking the standpoint of if it's 7 o'clock on a Friday night and no one's there, it's just parked there.
Right.
You got, and there's no one to ask or no one to talk to.
Right.
That's that.
Yeah, I'm just making a point that there is a certain amount of time that has to be used to investigate a situation because someone can be parked in another no parking area. Okay.
Any other neighborhoods where bike lanes go through? We know
Colonial Hills Drive is a very wide collector street.
There's a mass that I'm going through Colonial Hills that we're looking at connectivity there. You've gone through carriage trails right over here, right on the side, this
Chesterfield.
City Hall, Brandywine, Chesterfield, Canterbury. Our goal is obviously with new developments, you want what's called a complete street anyhow. Any that we can retrofit, that we have wide enough older streets that we can retrofit, we want to look at that just to, create connectivity, not just for the green print, but like in Colonial Hills, we've got the paths where they will connect the school to the park and then able to get to 51 so they can cross a pedestrian crossing there and essentially get over to this area where we'll have the state line and Main Street sidewalk. So anywhere where we've got enough width, we would like to retrofit.
And so I'm just afraid that if we pass it with a time allotment, that we're going to have to pass it with a time allotment. We're going to have to allow the time allotment for every other street that we make a bike lane.
The ordinance right now is written 5:30 to 8:30.
As a general. And that's not, I mean, that's not unheard of, and it's something we can always come back and amend afterwards. It was just kind of, making the water a little bit lukewarm versus just steaming hot to get the bike lanes to start working. One of the things we get, and like we've reached before, there's a bike group that comes through here that used to have a peddler place over by Kroger. Their main thing is, you marked it up for us, you tell us it's ours, and, we jump out and traffic get hit, you're gonna pay for my medical bills and stuff. So, my fear would, and like I told the mayor, is that we either would have them or we don't. I would feel safer about just getting them gone if we couldn't come up with a no parking scenario to make the bikers feel safe.
And we would be liable, is that?
I don't know why you'd be liable for the car. I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously you have to be a judge, but I don't know what theory of liability we would have if somebody else was intervening action and parking the car.
I mean, bikes can ride in the street anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer. Obviously, be litigated in court, but I don't know. We would not be per se liable for that.
Okay. If they moved out of the bike lane because there was a car parked there.
And, I mean, I don't know why we would be per se liable for that. I mean, obviously, somebody's going to try to make the argument. I'm not going to lie and say that we wouldn't get sued for it, but I'm not saying we'd be liable.
Okay.
You mentioned something a while ago about share the street. Explain that to me a little bit, because that sounds like it might be something that might work better than actual fact bike lanes.
Share the road is where the lane itself is not identified with the users. It's just marked as a shared street, so bikers, pedestrians, and vehicles all share. Yes, it's through Central Park, the actual parking lot. That's what we have there. It's not a standard width street, and we weren't able to give a design there, so we did actually use share the road. And it's where they all converge in the same lanes of traffic. A bike is no different than a vehicle at that point.
Whitney, and I remember in the meeting 4 years ago, I brought up the shared street, and only because I work downtown in Town 3, all in the South Main area. These are everywhere. Down Front Street all the way, busy streets. I think Dan Cordell had mentioned that this was feasible because there was more traffic. I don't know what the traffic count, if there's a technical, I mean, we can make it whatever we want, I would think.
Well,
I would think that there's a legal ramification.
There's not. There's just a better scenario for each one. One of the things you'll look at with shared road concept is points of access to that. When you're down a residential street like that and you've got 45, 50 driveways that people can pull in and out of, that becomes a little bit more dangerous in that situation. So if you have designated areas like a bike lane, that's more conducive to the residential areas. If you go through Central Park, you don't have any access points as you're going through except to get to the park and where the playgrounds are or something like that. So it's minimal perpendicular access coming onto the road. I mean, I think they can both work in all different scenarios. They just try to choose the best one based on the street you're working with.
What about, aren't there state laws that dictate bicycles on the highways, you've got to give them 3 feet? There's laws already in place.
There's designs in place for how you do a street. And there's also basically a law saying bikes have just as much right on the road as a car does. I'm sure people in vehicles don't agree with that a lot of times, and I've seen them go down Getwell Road, in a lane of traffic. So, I mean, they're protected as another mode of transportation.
It's a lot like motorcycles, though. People don't necessarily respect them as riders, and they don't see them a lot of times.
Right, and where we're at, we're so suburban and vehicle dependent here that you don't see a lot of that here. We're just trying to merge into it now, so, there's a lot of people that get upset when they're sharing the roads with bikes. Not that they can't, and not that they're not able to, it's just not a scenario that we deal with here.
How hard would it be for us to convert these bike lanes that we have in some of these areas like we're just talking about into share the road kind of scenario as opposed to just clamping down on it? Because I think the biggest thing is like you say, once you take the lines, then you got people territorial. The bikers are.
Everybody gets territorial at that point, right?
People parking there.
I mean, we can certainly look at it. We'll look at it again if that's what you so want us to do. I mean, it's, I'm open. I just, our concept, and from a planning aspect, it's progressive cities have bicycle-friendly places, running, friendly places, and that's what we want to incorporate. That's what attracts a lot of our businesses here. That's what attracts a lot of people want to do the residential design here because of stuff like that. So what I want to make sure is we just don't squash it. And I would hate to go back on a decision because I don't think the bike lanes were a mistake. I mean, I definitely get where Alderman Payne's coming from. I don't think they're a mistake, but I think it's even worse now if we just kind of scratch the lines off and say, okay, never mind, we don't want to do this. I don't want to do that.
And please, understand, I understand. Like I said, I love the idea of the bike lane.
Right.
Just when, I guess, when it came to light that, oh, goodness, they can't park there, that's a problem. And it's a problem because so many of these homes, like I said, are so much older than the idea of a bike lane.
Right.
And so many of them are single car driveways. I know it's not ideal to park on the street, and I hate that anyone does or even has to. But, this is, I can understand if, as an average citizen, if I was living there and I was forced to park on the street because I had 2 licensed drivers that lived in my house, and we were fortunate to have 2 extra cars, and I had a work truck. I came home before everybody else does, and I leave before everybody else does. I'm probably parking my work truck on the street. And if you drive down Clarington and Greenbrook Parkway, you're going to see that a lot. It's usually a work truck that's sitting parked on the street, whether it has Wonder Bread on it or something else.
If I may, Alderman Hoots, his question about share of the road, just to make sure you understand, if you're just going to have a share of the road, you don't need a lane. Like basically what you're doing at that point, you're saying it's a free-for-all. If there's a bike riding down the center of the lane, they have the right to ride a bike right there. So the purpose of having a bike, and again, it's not just a bike lane, it's a pedestrian lane. So the purpose of doing that is to be able to separate the motor vehicle traffic from the non-motor vehicle traffic for safety. So.
Because you're going to have even more people mad. We've looked at the share road concept in different areas too, and I have more vehicle people mad that says, wait a minute, so he's going 12 miles per hour and turning on a bike. I'm to abide behind him just as he was in another car.
Right.
So I mean, it's like you can't make the whole group happy. There's just somebody's mad at all times.
And the other point that Whitney made is a good one. Is in Alderman Payne again. I think has a valid concern about that specific area. But when you look at it from a citywide standpoint, like Whitney said, there are many people that move here or companies that they want to see stuff like that. And that's just what's so, I don't mean to say it's funny, but it's kind of interesting to me that in Southaven, when we try to change something, all hell breaks loose. But if you can get in the car and drive to Nashville or drive to other cities, and this is not reinventing the wheel. I mean, there are bike lanes in other cities. I mean, people want that kind of thing. So if we want to be attractive, these are some things that you got to consider. It's not just about Clarington Drive, as Alderman Flores brought up. This is a citywide thing. I mean, if you're going to do it, you got to look at the whole city. But again, I spoke too much last minute of the year. Y'all have at it.
Other thing I'd like to add again is that we're talking. There's been some talk about putting this on the table again and everything. We did that in 2016. That's. I mean.
You do need to decide: are you going to have a bike lane or you're not?
We didn't put it on the table. We had a meeting and we agreed. Me and the mayor and the chief of police and the city planner that we were going to allow them both to park there. I mean, it wasn't a big deal. This wasn't something that I thought.
It was a temporary thing, though. The way I understood the meeting is that we understood the concern, and so at that point we made the decision that we would not put no parking signs there. Right. And so, which would allow the residents to get used to there being a bike lane and get it adjusted to it. But I didn't leave, I mean, with all due respect, I didn't leave that meeting that it was solved. I left the meeting that we were going to temporarily allow the parking and we would revisit the issue. That's the way I understood it.
The way I'm kind of leaning towards this is, we've got both sets of people wanting to use the lane. No decision will make everyone happy. However, we can do our best to get the best compromise with that. I think kind of shortening the time that we have here, instead of 5 to 8:30, we maybe switch those numbers and do it 8 to 5. Because in just my opinion, just a little bit of research that I've done, I feel as though we have more people parked on the streets than we do have people utilizing the bike path and the running path. So therefore, if we make it more convenient for the parkers in that aspect of it, we can kind of do a win for both if we just shorten this time. Instead of including 13 and a half hours of the day, we change it to 8, where most of the parked vehicles will be gone anyways.
That's current. We currently have more people parked on the streets. And I drove down Clarington last night after work at 6:30, and there were 6 cars in the bike lane.
Most of your joggers are going to get out early.
They're going to get out early, and they're going to run after work.
And like Whitney was saying, when you connect the pass, you can bet that eventually that picture will change. When you start connecting the pass, there you'll see more people there.
We're either gonna be a bike and pedestrian friendly city or we're not. I say we should be.
Well, either way, I mean, no matter what hours we have, we will be. As long as we have these markers down the road, we're accomplishing that goal. So what we're doing here is just figuring out what's going to help our citizens the best, whether they can park in their, near their house or not. Because I mean, the bike pass and the pedestrian pass will be used one way or the other, and people riding bikes, they know, watch out for inanimate objects that are sitting in front of you. You don't want to run into that. So I mean, and again, I haven't done as much research on this as I admittedly should have. I don't see or hear of really anyone running into parked vehicles.
I feel like we made a compromise when we said we're going to allow cars to be parked there, period.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I feel like the compromise was, as far as that goes.
And we're making an additional compromise by setting hours now. I say we pass the ordinance as it is, 5 to 8:30.
What do you do on weekend days?
Same thing.
It seems like we have the most use of it, so we run on Saturday, if your car got moved, because everybody's not working.
Everybody can home in.
Then we have nowhere to go.
Okay, we gotta move along, so, we have a motion by Alderman Gallagher to approve it as is, which is 5:30 to 8:30 with signs, correct? And so now at this point, is there a second to that, or is there a motion to amend it?
Christian second.
Hmm?
Christian second.
Okay, okay, my bad, we do have a motion by Alderman Gallagher, second by Alderman Kelly.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to amend the motion that we change the time from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Second.
Okay, I think we need to vote on the other one first, because we have a motion on the,
You can amend before you vote.
okay.
Typically, though, the person who makes the motion is the one to amend the motion.
Okay, so what is your suggestion to Alderman Gallagher, Alderman Payne?
That we amend the time, the no parking is from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
You want to make that amendment, Alderman Gallagher?
I don't, like I say, I feel like we're already, meeting halfway in that we're allowing cars to park there, period. I'm for a 24-hour bike lane myself. But I'm willing to make that compromise.
I would agree with Alderman Kane as far as amending the motion if that helps.
Okay, since we're not in agreement, we had a motion the other way, by Alderman Gallagher, Alderman Kelly. Roll call, please.
Alderman Kelly.
No.
Alderman Hoots.
No.
Alderman Payne.
No.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, and where's William when I need him? Merry Christmas, William. Wow, 2019. No, I think we need to, if it's split like that, we need to entertain another adjustment that would bring more, unite our board more. So that motion does not carry to decline. So is there another motion to amend the hours?
Mayor, I make a motion that we amend the hours from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Hoots to amend the hours.
You voted on no on
5:30
the.
to
8:30.
8:30.
You can make another motion to do it, or you have to move on, however you want to do it, you can make another motion. I mean, however the board wants to do it, the mayor and board, so y'all.
8 a.m. is too late.
There
Too late.
was
They should already
there
do
was
what they
never an
did.
amended motion because Alderman Gallagher didn't.
No, you can still,
Be a new motion.
y'all can have a new motion, just however you want to do it, but you don't have to.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the ordinance, but with an adjustment, an amendment to the hours from 8 to 8 by Alderman Hoots. Is there a second?
I'll say.
Got a second by Alderman Kelly. Any other discussion before we vote again? Hearing none, roll call.
No, hold on. 8 AM is too late. It needs to be 7:30 or 7 o'clock.
Did you want to say something, Nick?
Well, the mayor made this, I think I was the mayor call for a roll call, so you could vote no on it now if you want to. This one. So you have to, at this point, there's a roll call being called.
I do, just for time purposes, I would like to open it before we have a roll call for more discussion. Alderman Flores?
I just think 8 AM is too late. Most people are at work at 8 AM already. So if you want to amend the motion, amend it to 7 or 7:30, and I'm okay with that.
What would be the ending time if the beginning time is
8:30.
7
It's about
to
summer hours, so you get started at 8:30.
7 to 8:30? There comes a point in time, and I don't mean to disrespect anybody, there comes a point in time when you gotta step up and you gotta vote, okay? So, if I know, I think everyone on this board, including me, would respect someone voting no. I have the ultimate respect for Alderman Payne. He's listening to his citizens and doing his job. If he feels like it's not the right thing, then that's his decision, but that doesn't mean that that's what's best for the entire city. That's why we have 7, and unfortunately for me, we have 6 aldermen here tonight. So, do you want to amend? Alderman Hoots made the motion from 8 to 8. You've heard other discussion. Do you want to amend that to 7 to 8? Okay. So we don't have a motion.
I'll make a motion that we amend it from,
You gotta vote on Alderman who's motion if we do anything.
Well, we don't have a second.
Alderman Kelly second.
Did you second it, Alderman Kelly?
I did.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Hoots for 8 to 8, and then we have a second by Alderman Kelly. Roll call.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
No.
Alderman Gallagher.
no,
Alderman Wheeler.
No.
Alderman Flores.
No.
All right, that motion fails. Is there another? I'll entertain another motion.
I'll make a motion that we amend the hours from 7 AM to 8:30 PM.
We have a motion by Alderman Gallagher, as stated.
Second.
Second by Alderman Flores. Any other discussion before we vote again? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
No.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. All right, next on the agenda is resolution for Freeport tax exemption for Newlywed Foods Incorporated.
This is just Freeport tax exemption for Newlyweds Food. It's for those goods in transit won't be taxed.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is a resolution for personal property tax exemption for Allen Ritchie Incorporated.
This also is a tax exemption for 5 years for personal property, approved by the county and also recommended by the Southern Economic Council. It's for the expansion of Allen Ritchie Incorporated.
I will make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Gallagher. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is a PID petition and authorization for setting a hearing for a PID amendment.
Yes, this petition was filed by the outlet shops, PID outlet shops, to amend the current PID area. As you recall, we passed a PID, I think in 2014, which incorporated a PID, Public Improvement District, which incorporated the mall and areas outside the mall for a special taxing unit, or special taxing district. At this juncture, the PID board is seeking to decrease the property or take some parcels out of the PID area. So tonight, all we're doing is setting the hearing to have that, to decide for the January 21st meeting. I think it's the 21st, is when we meet, the second meeting in January. We'll be advertising for the next 4 weeks, starting this Thursday in the Seven Times, to set the actual hearing. I think the mayor has had discussions with the PID district, and they may, I don't know if it's here for them to talk about it or not, but tonight we're just setting the hearing. But
Josh Pogue is here with us.
Any questions Mr. Pogue can answer at this point to the extent that we can. Some of these questions may be in executive session. I don't know the extent of where we are on this, but that's what we're doing tonight. There's no action taken except for to set the hearing. We will not be actually approving the PID reduction or the PID amendment until the January 21st meeting. So
And Josh, do you mind just giving us a summary of what the purpose of this request?
Yeah, certainly. Josh Pogue, Pogue Shopping Centers. It's good to see you all again. It's been a few years. So when we initially set up the PID, we didn't have a site plan, so we just included all the land that we had under contract. And so now we have a contract to sell a portion of the land to a hotel. And so the hotel wants to remove themselves from this area of the PID. So it doesn't really affect anything. And so it's just excluding that hotel parcel and cleaning up the title work. So as Nick said, this is just to set us on the agenda for the final approval in January, but we need to get the ball rolling.
Any questions for Mr. Pogue?
Nick, are there any negatives to this that you can think of?
Not that I know at this point. They've got council I'll follow up with out of Jackson. I can talk to them to get some more information. If there's anything out there, we can discuss that at the next meeting in January, or the first meeting in January, and we'll be in touch with them when anything comes up. But tonight, all you'll be doing is acknowledging the PID in your minutes, the PID amendment request, and then setting the hearing, and then between now and January 21st, if anything comes up, all you need for the job for the council.
You need to make a motion.
Yeah, we need to go ahead and do that. Make authorizing publication for the hearing and acknowledging receipt of the PID amendment.
I'll do that. I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
No motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Next on the agenda is Medline DIP agreement and site inspection agreement.
As you recall, these were previously approved, so there's no action for the board tonight, just notifying the board that this has been put in the minutes for tonight. These were approved at a September-October meeting. They've since been signed by Medline and the mayor. So tonight, authorize these to be in the minutes, or just inserting these into the minutes, no actions needed. This sets forth the agreements with the MDA as far as the money received for the council and for the city for the road projects and the job requirements by Medline. So just put that in minutes, no action to take.
Okay, so we'll move on. Next on the agenda is the Medline fee in lieu of tax and inducement agreement.
Yeah, the fee in lieu of tax you approved at the last meeting. Since that time, there was one addition made to the agreement by the Sutter County, which requires Medline to submit more documentation regarding their jobs to the city and the county requirements. So tonight, it's the exact same agreement except with that provision in there which mandates that the county and or city can request information from Medline that is being provided to MDA, and Medline will provide it. And also there are some exclusions in there as it relates to the public records law for actual personnel and that type of information from Medline in relation to jobs and salaries. So tonight, authorization, there's a resolution that will pass this pilot agreement and rescind the one that was passed at the last board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Gallagher, second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries.
And the inducement agreement, we do not have a final inducement agreement yet. We are still working on one exhibit as it relates to the actual route for the road, Country Trace Road. So at this juncture tonight, it has been approved by the county tonight, we just authorized the mayor to sign the inducement agreement upon final approval of the exhibit and final approval of revisions relating to the city putting in the water line for the Medline project. So once those are done, the mayor can sign, but tonight we would just authorize the mayor to sign contingent upon those two issues being done and council's review along with the mayor's review for final approval, and then we can come back to you at the January meeting and enter that agreement, hopefully into the minutes at that time.
So do we want a motion for
Yes,
this?
I'm sorry, a motion to approve contingent upon those changes.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Kelly. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on our agenda is our planning agenda. Ms. Whitney Cook.
Yes, sir, we have two items on the agenda tonight. The first one is an application for a full-service spa, actually to be located in the Tanger Outlet, which is going to be on the west side of Airways Boulevard, north of Church Road. It does comply with the distance requirements. I think we're all familiar with those now. So with that, we're recommending approval.
Move that we approve item number 1 on the planning agenda as presented.
Second.
On item 1, we have a motion by Alderman Gallagher, second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries.
Item number 2, we have a request to amend an existing planned unit development, which is going to be called Central Gardens. This is going to be on the north side of Rasco Road, just east of Airways, across from the intermediate school. It was approved in 2007 as a 55 and up single-family dwelling development. Also had a clubhouse, shuffleboards, a little golf course area in it, and storage for RV and boats for those specific residents. What they have come in and requested to do now is add more property into this. One of the areas, which we're calling Area 2, is going to be along Airways. They wanted to have some capabilities to go commercial with that. They also had a portion up against where the Greenbrook Baptist Church is, which was some additional acreage they were able to buy. They wanted to incorporate that 2.62 acres, and they also had a portion on the south side of Rasco Road, which is actually next to the Creekwood townhomes that they wanted to incorporate in here. There was a lot of discussion at the Planning Commission, especially with the floodway and the tree line that's up against Rasco Road. They initially had that as parcel number 3 that they wanted to add in for some commercial uses. After some discussion, the developer opted just to completely remove that portion out of it, so it's an out parcel not to be touched. There was discussion on my behalf and the Planning Commission that the area along Airways, they wanted the rights for motels and hotels there, and we did not feel that was conducive to that area. Another portion of the discussion, it was, they requested warehousing. And the Planning Commission voted unanimously to reduce the size of the square footage allowed there for warehousing to 20,000 square feet. So essentially it could be no larger than a 20,000 square foot warehouse. Afterwards, like I explained to the mayor this morning, I did have some planning commissioners call in and say we really just would rather do away with the warehousing use right there, but they did vote unanimously in favor of it. I did tell them I'll bring it to the board and let you know what their concerns were. The parcel 3, they had some office uses and some livable spaces with retail above. We told them we didn't feel like it was conducive there. We would like to see more than 55 and up, and they conceded to that. And on parcel 4, they are requesting when and if the allowance of multifamily comes back in, they would like to put additional townhomes to match Creekwood on that portion right there. They did let us know that there will be an HOA mandated there. Those will be private streets and it will be a gated community. It will not impact, obviously, the school at 55 and up. As an intermediate school, you won't have young children on this site. So once we got through all of the contingencies that the Planning Commission put on there that I've kind of summarized for you, they voted unanimously in favor of it at that point.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve item number 2 without the warehouse allowance.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Payne and a second by Alderman Kelly. Is there any discussion?
Where's the drainage going
You have got the large creek line that goes, it actually goes diagonal across Airways and Rasco right there. We can drop the water in, and they've got the floodway there. So we ran the hydraulics, it will drain into that. And there's actually not a whole lot of development on the site. Like I said, they left 37 acres of the total acreage as completely undisturbed. The 55 and up, they've got some areas in the center where they'll have detention on site for them. And then the small area, it's 2.62 acres on one side, I think 3 acres for the commercial. So there should be a whole lot of runoff from there.
I just want to make sure that this problem is all around.
Sure.
Any other discussion?
How big are those lots, back up to that neighborhood over there?
The 55 and up lots, they're standards, 5,500 to 6,000 square feet, like what you have in the Snowden area. They've got a 1,400 square foot minimum that was approved back in 2007 with a 2-car garage. And like I said, all of their other storage will be, if you look, it'll be at the far end, the far west end. They've kind of got a built-in area for RV and boat storage for the private development there. So there shouldn't be anything on the street. I hate to say that, but yes.
Those power lines are not a problem?
I mean, they can't do a whole lot about power lines. They have developed the property around it. Obviously, you can't go underneath the TVA lines. That's usually about 100-foot easement. So they can incorporate that into the green space.
Mr. Smith, did you want to make a comment, or were you just available for questions?
It was hard to hear back there, but I heard something about no warehouses, you know, we wanted to drop to 20,000. Maybe I can explain what maybe we described it wrong, maybe as a warehouse, but one of the purposes of acquiring this property is my son Lance has a business where he sells motorcycle parts. And so his thought was to move there and sell out of the building. Is it the size that you're objecting to, the 20,000, or?
My concern originally, I mean, I didn't know what we're doing the building for,
Yeah.
warehouse. It's just where this property is, it's away from all the other warehouses. I just thought it was an odd location to put another warehouse in between more
Well,
residential.
it would be similar, you have a carpet place there that sells in front and a warehouse at the back, a flooring place or something like that is what we're trying to.
What are we talking about, what are we considering warehouse?
We're not talking about 18-wheelers, I mean, we're talking about box trucks or something there to make deliveries.
It sounds like the question, if I may help, it's size. We're talking about size. Like, I think when you say the word warehouse, a lot of people envision a bunch of 18-wheelers pulling in a huge warehouse like we have, you know, just north of there on Airways and State Line. But if I'm understanding you right, you're talking about something like Ultimate Roofing is right there. Then you have a couple of places like that that have like a storefront, but then they have what they would have storage space in the back. Is that what you're talking
That's
about?
what we're talking about.
That parts place across the street? It's a parts place right there across the street, down the street, CarQuest or?
CarQuest, nothing of that size, that's much larger.
So
than
how do you define that?
it would be facing Airways, yes.
How do you define that from a planning standpoint?
Well, usually
Is
something
that
like
something
that.
retail?
It does. It has a retail base. It's a dual use. Unfortunately, because the storage there, it lumps into warehousing, and that's what I was trying to explain to our planning commission. Is it's like the Smith Pools or the Carpet Spectrum place, or like Mary talked about the Arbor and the place in the old Green Grocery Building. So it's
I'll make a
not.
motion to withdraw the warehouse.
I think maybe we can describe it.
Right, she said warehouse, and I was thinking,
Because that's the only use you can put it under, and without his explanation as to what the specific use was going to be under the amendment, we just have to generalize the uses. So I'm glad that he got up and actually spoke on that. So.
But do you want to define that by the size of it?
Well, that's the way the planning commission did it, because at first it was just general warehouse, and I said, no. So we got to talking about what the problem was with it, and I saw their point, we didn't want 18-wheelers.
So the plan already has a limit on it?
It has a limit of 20,000
Okay.
square foot, that's the max that can be utilized on the site.
right, my purpose is to keep the warehouses on the north side.
Absolutely.
Past the residential.
The big box warehouse.
And those are 500,000 to 1 million square feet. I mean, there's no comparison on those.
So, the motion was made on this one was made by Alderman Gallagher, wasn't it?
No.
No, I mean, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Payne. So are you amending your motion, Alderman
Yes,
Payne?
I am.
And then is there a second on that amendment? Second, Alderman Kelly. Any other discussion on 2? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda is the City Hall roof penthouse change order. If I may, just to kind of update everyone on this issue, we have Ryan Morris with Urban Art with us tonight. But basically what this is, when the roofer was on the top of City Hall, I actually got on the roof myself and looked at it. Where the penthouse houses the boiler in the center, there's a lot of areas in there that are susceptible to future leaking. Like anybody that knows anything about roofing knows that the more creases and the more cuts you have in a roof, the more opportunities that you're going to have leaking in the future. It's not leaking right now. The roof is on there. It's doing well. But the roofer made the suggestion while he was doing the job that it would be best for the city in the long run to put a roof over that penthouse. That way you seal up all these cuts in the roof line and protects the city from having leaks in the future. So that's the guts of what it's about. But Ryan, if you'll come forward, Ryan, and if we can have, what we're asking is basically for a change order of the amount. I think we have that amount posted here. There is a credit. So Ryan, if you'll just kind of walk the board through what the total is plus the credit and tell what the net change order requested is.
Absolutely.
Please, sir.
So in this project, we actually have a $30,000 contingency for any unforeseen conditions. We are nearing the end of the project for the roofing portion, and the roofer came forward with the idea, and so the actual change cost itself to roof the penthouse and clad it in standing seam, because currently it's a seamy block with like a plaster coating on it. You can probably see it now if you're driven by. That's all been exposed now. The green roof is off. So to do all that work, it's $36,000. And the wall coating, which was in the base bid, we get a credit of $11,000 some odd dollars. And then we've done some other work on the annex, which we had some money in there for replacing water damage roof, which actually didn't occur. They've done some coring samples, so we have $4,000 that wasn't needed. So that $15,000 credit is going back to make the charge $21,000. And as the mayor said, he's found a great solution, something we kind of, I'd say we overlooked, but we had a solution to fix what was currently there, and he's came up with the idea to add something to it. So it'll cover up the existing roof hatch that's in there, and eliminate quite a bit of area, surface area, and basically just have 4 perimeter walls that would have to be flashed, which we have a fairly good system going in its place, and as the mayor stated, it's already in and working. There's another coat to go on top to kind of finish that up.
So, a motion first, yes, sir, please.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Alderman Flores.
And I guess just to be clear, this doesn't cost the city any additional money. It's just we're over the 1% allowance of what we can, or what I think we'll be approved to do later on in the meeting.
Second.
We had a motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. While we're talking about that topic, there is another issue that we need to clarify. By state law, and correct me, Nick, if I speak incorrectly, but state law does allow contracts like that to allow there to be a 1% contingency without having to to stop the contractors to come back before and ask for a change order. But it's my understanding in this project that we did not approve that. That was not part of it. So there is, again, the reason for that, and it would require board action tonight, would allow the process to move quicker without us having to wait on a meeting, but you want to restrict that to a certain dollar amount. Obviously, if it's something significant enough like tonight, we would want that done by change order. But there is, state law does allow us to allow a 1% contingency where the contractors don't have to wait to come back before the board. So it is my recommendation that we make a motion to allow that. It will help us move the process along more efficiently. However, restricting, any kind of changes that obviously the board would want to know about, and certainly anything that affects the net budget, we want to bring that back before you. But anyway, that's my recommendation. Nick, would you add to that and kind of help the board understand the purpose of that?
Yeah, what we can do tonight is, Mississippi Code 31-7-13G allows for there to be change orders, or not change orders, allows there to be discretionary authorizations made by your architect and or engineer on public construction projects that are 1% or less. But tonight, what I think the motion could be, if the board so approves, would be authorization for Urban Art to exercise the 1% discretion as it relates to change order, or relates to the items within the scope of the contract, but outside the actual bid part of the contract, pursuant to 31-7-13G for the City Hall and the Park Maintenance Shop and the sign contract to 1% authorization. And so that would be what your motion would be tonight, and then that would allow Urban Arts at that point to make those decisions that are 1% or less, that are also within the contingency funds for the contracts that are currently in place right now for the City Hall, Park Maintenance Shop, and sign contract. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have, but the statute allows for it, and the statute we cited in the minutes as well, along with the language from the statute.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
You got a motion from Alderman Flores, second from Alderman Gallagher. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is our mayor's report. First of all, I want to point out the fact that the city just recently received the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement Award for Excellence in Financial Reporting. This is our 4th consecutive year to get that. So that's a big deal. There's only a very small percentage of governmental entities across the nation that get this award. So it speaks loudly for a lot of things. Obviously, it speaks well of the transparency of the city as it relates to our financial affairs. It also speaks well of Edie McElwain, who is our CPA, and Tish Cox, our comptroller, and also Chris Wilson, who is our department head over finance and administration. So anyway, that's a big deal. It sends a strong message to our community that there's the ultimate transparency with our financial affairs in the city of Southaven. I'm very proud of that, and I think everyone else should be as well. The next thing, Alderman Kelly, a few months ago, had a great idea. He noticed that the city of Southaven is the 3rd largest city in the state of Mississippi, but on our interstate system, Interstate 55, Southaven is not noted. And he thought that was strange. And when he brought that to my attention, although I've been up and down I-55 thousands and thousands of times, I said, you know what? You're right. It's not. So why is that? So it was a great idea, and again, I appreciate you bringing that up. So I did talk to Mitch Turner with MDOT, pointed that out, and MDOT was extremely cooperative in changing the distance signs. And the way it's done, their federal highway rules and the way it's done, like they have major destination cities that are pegged on the map. So like in our area, it'd be Memphis, Jackson, Mississippi, New Orleans. And so they're always going to be the one on the bottom. If you'll notice that next time you're on the interstate, they will always be on your next destination city will be on the bottom, and then at the top will be your next exit, and then in the middle is your next biggest city. So what Alderman Kelly brought to our attention has changed that to where now for like 46 miles, I think it's when you get north of Batesville, on every destination sign, Southaven's in the middle now. So they did complete that as they told us they would. And I was in Jackson last week. On my way back, I noticed that. So that project is complete. The next thing I want to bring up to everyone, and it's not necessary for us to get into the discussion about the capital improvement plan yet. But I promised everyone I would report back about the discussion about field turf, artificial turf for all the fields at Snowden Grove Park and Greenbrook. And so we did get the pre-bid estimate back, and that amount is $6.3 million. Now, that's about what we were expecting it to be. Before we get into going out to bid and everything, there is an ad alternate that can be put on there where you do not turf the foul lines on the fields. If there is a significant amount of savings. It's like $1.5 million less if you don't do that. I will tell you that there is benefit in that, especially anyone that's played ball before. The pregame routines coming out of the pitcher's bullpen, players stretching, sitting down, doing stretching exercises, loosening their arms up, swinging the bat, all that kind of pregame stuff. You're going to have a lot of foot traffic on that, so it is nice to have the foul lines done. Also, it does save maintenance, by having the lines painted. So there's value in it, but just wanted to let you know that is a significant savings if the board, eventually when we do vote on all this, if the board decides that they want to turf the infields without the foul line. So but anyway, that's just the information I wanted to report back to you. Is there any discussion about that while we're talking about it?
You talking about foul lines out or just the foul line?
Just the foul lines. Like our proposal is not doing the outfield or infield. It would just be turfing the infield, but you can do it where you turf the foul lines from the fence to the line on each side down the left and right field line. And so if you take that out, you're taking out a lot of square footage and you're saving a lot of money. But I was just pointing out the fact that there is some value by having that turf for pregame activity, so you're not wearing out the grass. Also will help you with maintenance, so you're not having to chalk the line all the way to the outfield wall.
How does West feel about that?
We haven't gotten into, basically, we hadn't got, I won't speak for what I think I know what he'll say, but Wes, would you like to speak? I know what he's going to say.
As Mayor stated, it's obviously 1.5 million to go from the fence to the foul lines and all 25 fields, but obviously I'm for it. That's less pain, less maintenance, areas to warm up. It's virtually maintenance free at that point.
What are we going to spend money
And it does, the next question that y'all may be thinking or may be useful for you to know is, my next question was, can we come back and do it later? Like if you do it and you don't want to do it all at one time and you just want to kind of see how it works out, the answer to that is yes. You can do the infields and come back later and do the foul lines if you want. Any other questions for Wes? Okay. Any other discussion about that? Like I said, there's no action tonight. Just wanted to report back to the board. Are there any other questions about the turf at Snowden and Greenbrook? Okay, none, so I'll move on. Being that this is the last meeting of the year, and I was going to take it easy tonight until y'all made me vote for the first time in my career. I've never in 6.5 years voted, so thank y'all for making what I plan to be a stress-free evening, for making me vote. Thank y'all, appreciate that. But with that being said, since it is the last meeting of the year, I always like to kind of look back and kind of recap what's going on. I think that for any prudent person moving forward with planning and having vision, you always have to stop every now and then and kind of look behind you and make sure that things are going the way that you want them to go. And I think it's important tonight, just real quickly, that we look back on 2019. Y'all may remember at the first meeting of this year in January, I told everyone that this was going to be a vision year. And when I say vision year, I don't mean like looking forward. I mean actually seeing things happen on the ground. And this board will know that there's many things that we have been planning and talking about, some even longer than the bike line, for 3 or 4 years that are actually happening. That they've been under construction this year, and everything seemed to kind of come together at once. So there's so many things that are under construction. And I just want to take a minute just to kind of reflect on 19 and talk about some of the stuff that is either in process or that has happened. The Snowden Grove pedestrian project, when we talk about infrastructure improvement, we've got that project underway now with completion probably in January, February. The Central Snowden Grove Parks multi-use trails Whitney mentioned earlier, we're about 2 months away from construction beginning on that. The May Boulevard pedestrian bridge, we talked about that last time. That's an exciting thing for a lot of our citizens that's underway, or that will be underway, or the planning of that will be underway, the design, excuse me. Then Getwell Road South Widening Project, that is the number one thing that's on our MPO list, and that's to widen Getwell south of Church Road to Star Landing. When we have meetings about that, we are pressing that issue. We'll know more about that in late 2020, but it's our plan to finalize the funding and get that project underway in early 2021. Y'all know about the Horn Lake Creek Bridge project that will replace the bridge on State Line Road at Horn Lake Creek. State Line Road resurfacing, that's done. There's a few things they got to go back and correct one lane. That's why it's not striped yet, but that will be done within the next 30 to 45 days. When you talk about public safety, y'all know that Fire Station number 5 is being designed now. That's a project that's been talked about for 10 or 12 years. So I'm excited that Fire Station number 5 is actually in the design process. Fire hydrant expansion. All the annexed areas in the city have had proper water lines extended, with the exception of one. We have one more phase, and that will be done to where every place in the city will have the same fire protection. Police body cameras, that's a discussion that will go more so in 2020. I know Chief Moore updated the board at a budget meeting about that, but that's something that we have to look forward to in 2020. Then when you talk about revitalization and beautification, we want to make our city more economically attractive. Obviously, we're still promoting the West End Business District. We've changed the banners. We're renovating City Hall. We got the monument signs going in 2 locations now. The third one's about to start at Malone and Goodman. We're going a long way for beautifying our city. Greenbrook Parkway Median Landscaping Project. And then we've got things in the future about decorative light bulb projects. Parks expansion, wow, we have a ton of things going on. We finished the Field of Dreams Playground this year. The Springfest Pavement Project is underway now. Soccer at Snowden Grove is underway, and the Greenbrook Indoor Softball Facility is almost complete. Economic development, big year for the City of Southaven, big year. Obviously, Silo Square is under construction now. It's a $200 million, 228-acre mixed-use development. We created the Metropolitan Business District to attract new business to the Church I-55 area. The 2 biggest industrial developments, 2 of the biggest ones in the state of Mississippi, occurred in our city this year. Spectre Labs, which will bring, in 2 years, projected to bring 600 jobs to the State Line Sweeney area. That is a subsidiary of Fresenius Medical Care. Then you're talking about $81 million investment, 211,000 square feet. Medline going at I-55 Star Landing, $46 million project, 1.4 million square foot facility, projected to bring 450 new jobs. That's not all of it. We still lead the county in residential building permits, so the City of Southaven is having great growth again. Financial stability, y'all know that there's not been a property tax millage increase in many, many years. Certainly not with this administration. We've lowered debt. We continue to pay long-term debt off, and we've increased our unassigned fund balance significantly. Not going to get into numbers until they're audited. And then, as we talked about earlier, we got the award for excellence again for the 4th year in a row. So it's been a great year. 2019 has been a big year for the City of Southaven. We'll see other things get completed in 2020, but I want to thank everyone. Thank my department heads this morning in the department head meeting for having to work with me. I know that I can be demanding at times. I'm a high energy guy. I like to see progress. I do not like to see unfinished business. I think that anybody on my staff will tell you that. And so I thank them for their patience with me. But there is a fine line between mediocrity and excellence. And as long as I'm leading the city, I promise excellence to every citizen in this city. And I thank the board for all your work. I mean, obviously, tonight's an example that we have to talk about difficult things. We don't always agree. But I have the ultimate respect for every one of you. I know that we have a good group. We're able to disagree but still be respectful. And I appreciate that about all of you too. So anyway, thanks to all the employees of the city. It's my honor to serve as mayor of Southaven. It's been a great year, and I wish everyone a Merry Christmas. Next on the agenda is our citizens' agenda. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Okay. Anyone that wants to speak? One thing I will note, and I don't see her with us, but Alderman Hoots, if you'll relay the message to Marie. I've thought a lot about her suggestion last time about the order that we have the citizens' agenda on our board meeting agenda. And that's something that we're thinking about. It may be that we haven't finalized that decision, but it may be something that we could do to move that up further in the meeting. That way, if someone has a comment about anything that's on the agenda, they'll have the, as she stated, they'll have the opportunity to speak before the board takes action on it. So anyway, if you would just relay my appreciation to her for her idea, I think it's a good idea. We're going to keep talking and thinking about that, and we may make some changes there. Okay, moving past the citizens' agenda is personnel docket.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the personnel docket as presented on the state.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is the city attorney's legal update.
I got quite a few items that I'll come up yesterday and today. First item is authorization for the clerk's office to purchase items from for the printer, copy machine, and for Andrea Mullen to do that, I think it was $350. Is that the correct amount, Andrea? 385, I apologize. So authorization for her to sign that in purchase.
We have a motion by Alderman Kelly, second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries.
Next is authorization to surplus the firearm to Officer Noble. He retired from the Southaven Police Department. So tonight, authorization to surplus him his firearm in recognition of his retirement from the Southaven Police Department.
I'll make that motion. Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Gallagher. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries.
Next is resolution to surplus police vehicles. Got this afternoon. They are ready to be surplused and just got on the agenda tonight. So authorization to surplus those vehicles pursuant to 172525.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Wheeler, second by Alderman Flores. Is there any discussion?
It was 17, 18 vehicles.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries.
And last item, authorization, we need to reappoint, or the board chooses to reappoint, Chris Shelton as our representative for the Southaven County 911 Commission. He needs to be reappointed by January. Obviously, we don't meet before January, so.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Alderman Gallagher, second by Alderman Payne. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. All right, next on the agenda is our utility bill adjustment docket.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the utility bill adjustment docket as presented on the state.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Flores. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is the approval of docket 1 for the claims dockets.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve docket number 1 in the amount of $2,364,185.03, including demand check.
Second.
On docket 1, we have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Hoots. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Is there a motion to approve docket 2?
Mr. Mayor, move we approve docket number 2 in the amount of $325,223.77.
Second.
On docket 2, we have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Flores. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda is to determine the need for executive session.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I'm sorry. Who's the motion? Motion by Alderman Gallagher, second by Alderman Wheeler. All in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The need this evening is personnel in the police department, economic development, and potential litigation involving city infrastructure. So is there a motion to declare executive session?
So moved. Second.
We got a motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Wheeler. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. The mayor and board will now enter executive session.
Alderman Wheeler.